Hello, and thank you very much for staying for this third session of the Professional Development Seminars at Go Media. And today's session really is about content, and it's about the creation, management, leveraging, and distribution of video and storytelling content.
One of the best things to do, just as the first thought, is to think about this footage and what do I want to do with it. Because the answer to that will affect a lot of how you proceed. For instance, if you have decided that you do want to make this video available for marketing use, then the question of waivers will come into play and what type of permission you need from people who appear in your video. And then the other point I would make in regards to starting is putting some thought towards whether you need talent for this shoot. Is this something that you want to just take the real scene that's unfolding in front of you and you want to be spontaneous and grab people as they're there? Or do you need a bit more of a controlled situation where you need to actually hire and have ready and brief talent that will be part of your shoot? One of the best things to do is actually to quite quickly write this down in the form of a brief. Because if you can present the production company with that brief in writing, they can always go back to it if there's ever confusion on what they need to set up. They can then spread that down to everyone on their team, from an editor to a cameraman. And then an idea of your itinerary. Where are you going to be? And what's really important to mention in there is the conditions that this team is going to be going through, because that could mean whether they're going to be outside for 3 days straight in minus 25. They need to make sure they're prepared. But also things in regards to whether this will be indoor or outdoor, if you want interviews, because that will really affect the equipment they bring.
My favorite part is post-production. So first is prep. Whether it's files or tape or the footage needs to be loaded, sometimes converted if it's not our North American standard, it needs to be organized, labeled, and grouped way before the editing begins. This is the stage where pre-planning with someone like Dave or JPJ helps speed things along. The next is the creative editorial, or you may know it as the offline. This is the point where the editor selects the B-roll, edits the shots, and also edits the audio. This can take days or weeks depending on the volume and your outcome, whether it's a story or B-roll that's just headed for archive.
I think the first thing is make it as easy as you can for a broadcaster. And you do that by nowadays avoiding the high cost of lots of tapes, lots of digibeta. That can actually sometimes slow the process down. Having one tape with all of your assets on, for a broadcaster when you're sending that out, sometimes really quite painful for them to go through to get to the bit they want. With digital distribution now, you can actually create specific B-roll for specific markets, for specific activities. So if you want a sporting B-roll and you're sending it to ESPN, just send them the sports stuff. But you don't have to do a specific tape. Just send them a digital download file, and it's easier for them. You probably stand more chance of getting used, and also you can track the usage that way.
And with that, we also provide lists, timecode lists, description lists, thumbnails, so that way people don't have to go through all that footage. It's kind of a searchable database. You can type in, if somebody's looking at, polar bears, they type that in, city of Churchill, and so you can, from, hours and hours and hours, you can basically pluck off those systems what it is that you need.
Package stuff as well. So don't just think about your B-roll. Come up with some great GVs and interviews. The stuff that we had for the Royal Tour, even on YouTube alone, just on our site. So forget any sort of SEO'd content, had over 500,000 hits. Be real. What people want to see is real people doing real things. It's got to be, I guess, a journey. If it's a feature piece, if it's news, it's actually got to tell that story. It's also got to tell that story from construction to completion. So if it's a tourist sort of attraction, make sure that you tell the story from beginning to the first person going on the roller coaster ride or the attraction being opened. It's also something that a broadcaster can't get themselves. So when you break ground, you want to be there filming something. So plan your B-roll even before the attraction opens. Capture all of those things that you couldn't have got elsewhere, and get interviews with those people that are involved at every level. Not just the CEO or the main public face of it, but the people that have made it happen, because that's the sort of colour that really adds to a piece. It's content, and I think that is the trend. If you create good content, then it becomes very easy to do more stuff with it.
Is the demand for finished product greater than if I were to provide that basic B-roll?
That's a terrific question.
If it's going to news as opposed to feature, they will lap up the real stuff. And they don't really care about how it's edited. All they want is that interview content, that interview segment, or just that one shot to illustrate a story. So if it's for news, less important. If it's for editorial, then yeah, it needs to be a little bit more polished.
We always were trying to have the raw product available so they could do whatever they wanted with it. That was always our first focus, but what we're noticing more and more, certainly for online, is if we prepare the edited piece that's relevant content, that is relevant in some form, often that piece just gets pulled and put all over the place on the web and gives us quite a big audience reach. So we're seeing more and more value in the fully edited, produced piece.
Do you also provide unmixed copies so people can add their own voice to that? And is that something that you upload on FTP so they can easily grab?
We'll always provide what we call a split track copy so that they can take our voice out and put their own in if they'd like, or remove the music, or make the quick little changes and make it look like their own.
Some of the key ingredients are, and we talked about it, was content. And content for me is that you may wonder, do your story angles, do your e-newsletters, do your product updates, attending Go Media, is it really relevant? And yes, it is. It gets into my brain, it gets into the industry's brain. It is essential for us to be on top of content and what is out there. So it's really important to stay on strategy and for you guys to be on our strategy as well. So for us to really share, EQ types and signature experiences and those kinds of things. And to remember also that markets differ. And what may be selling and what may be really hot right now in Japan or in Brazil is not what's hot in Australia. If we know that customer wants to buy that product in that market right now, and we know the wholesalers are selling it, then let's not go show something to somebody and not tell them how to then go and buy it. We tease them, we entice them about where to go in Canada. We give them all that great product. On the Today Show, when we have the weather broadcasts coming up, we actually have a call to action that will drive with an offer right back to the retailer, if I'm choosing just to work with a retailer, who then has gone and gotten a wholesaler. So that's a saleable piece for me. I can actually sell half my production costs to the wholesaler and the retailer to cover my costs, to cover your costs, so bringing the cost down. Constant change in the marketplace. We used to have Getaway, Great Outdoors. Those shows change, so you have to stay on top of what television programs are relevant. And the two things that I really wanted to get across to you is relationships, relationships, relationships. Keep them open. It's so easy to send an email, but it's so easy to delete an email. Face-to-face, phone, it's really important, and sharing of information. And TV is all about business, and so they will only take what is going to make good business sense for them at the end of the day, unless you want to pay for the spots 100%.
Travelers now have still got the money. They've still got the cash to go on their travels, but they're becoming a lot more selective. And I think the same as tourist boards. You've still got the money, maybe not as much, but what you need to do is make sure that it works as hard as possible. And so if you're creating those assets, you want to make sure that they can be given to other markets, revoiced, repackaged, repurposed, but also as well, if you're sending a crew, when we go out there, we don't just shoot B-roll, we shoot online packages, we shoot tour op videos that you can give to a tour op to actually push specific products, and then we will also have just standalone interviews. We might have had a great sort of overview video of a region, but actually there were probably half a dozen really good interviews that can stand alone as content.
So that brings us to the conclusion of our session.